Hey everyone, this video is to help you with solving rational expressions using a different method than was in the last video called the LCD method, or the least common denominator. So we want to multiply each side of the equation by the least common denominator, and we want to solve the resulting equation. We do this when we have, instead of just one, we have multiple rational expressions on either side of the equation. So it's more than just a single fraction on each side. There's an addition or subtraction sign in between them. So the first thing that I want to focus on is what should jump out at you, this subtraction sign here. I always want to change subtraction to addition. So I'm going to make this plus a -7. Next thing I'm going to focus on is what my LCD should be. Now, remember, when we're thinking about the LCD, we want to focus first on the coefficients. So this first fraction has a 3, the second fraction has a 1, and the third fraction has a 6. The smallest number that 3, 1, and 6 divide into, remember, we're looking for some number that 3, 1, and 6 divide into is going to be 6. So our LCD has to contain the number 6. The other thing that you should notice is we have a variable. It should have the biggest exponent. In this case, it's just n to the first. So our LCD is 6n. Now you are going to multiply everything in this equation by 6n. So I'm going to multiply 4 by 6n. I'm going to multiply 7 by 6n. And I'm going to multiply this 1 by 6n. As long as you do it to every term in the equation, you're not actually changing the value. And the other cool thing that we can do here to make it even easier is we can simplify this down to completely eliminate our denominators. If we get every single denominator to just have a 1 in it, then it's going to make it a lot easier for us. If you look at the first fraction, 3 divides into 6n 2 times. So I'm really multiplying this first fraction by 2n. N divides into 6n, so that 6n just becomes 6. And 6 divides into the 6n, so the 6n just becomes n. So now what I'm really doing here is multiplying 2n times 4 to give me 8n, plus -7 times 6 is -42, equals 1 times n is. And we've made this a very, very simple equation to solve. From here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract my 8n over. So -42 equals -7n. I divide by getting ahead of myself. I divide by -7. And I'm going to get that n equals 6. You have to make sure you go back and check your solution, because we showed that in the previous video. I am just going to tell you to make sure you check by plugging it into the original. So 4 over 3 minus 7 over 6 equals 1 over 6. I will tell you that this one works out. So we have a solution of n equals 6. Now, the second example is a little bit trickier, because you have more than just monomials. You have quantities underneath here. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to factor the denominator to figure out what exactly the LCD is. This first fraction, 13 over 3w minus 3, I can take a GCF of 3 out. That's w minus 1. Remember, we're changing this to plus a negative, so plus -1 over And as we've talked about in earlier videos, I'm putting that w minus 1 in parentheses equals w over 9. Now there's a couple things that the LCD absolutely has to contain. I like to look at my binomials, my quantities, any of that stuff first. My LCD has to contain a w minus 1 because the first denominator and the second denominator both contain it. The first denominator contains a 3, the second one contains a 9. 3 is a multiple of 9, that means my LCD has to have a 9 in it. Now remember, we are going to go through and we're going to multiply everything by the LCD. So the first fraction, 9 times w minus 1. Second one, 9 times w minus 1. And the third one, 9 times w minus 1. Just like we did previously, I'm going to cancel out everything that I can. So from the denominator, the w minus 1 cancels. And then 3 goes into 9 3 times. Basically, you're doing 3 times 13, which is going to give us 39. In the second fraction, the w minus 1 is going to cancel. Basically, you have 9 times negative 1, which is negative 9. And then for the third and final fraction, the only thing that's going to cancel would be the 9s. So you have w times w minus 1, which gives us w squared minus w. 39 and negative 9 is 30 equals w squared minus w. You should right away notice you are going to have to solve this by factoring. So I'm going to move my 30 over to get w squared minus w minus 30. Trinomial is going to factor us two binomials. The two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to negative 1 are negative 6 and positive 5. This is going to give me a value of 6. And this is going to give me a value of negative 5. Remember, you have to make sure that you check both of them. If you are unsure about checking them, look back at the first solving video. That will explain it a little bit better. For the sake of time, I'm not going to check it. I will tell you that both of these work out. Now, for our third video, we have something a little bit challenging here. Our second fraction isn't a fraction yet. In order to make it a fraction, I'm going to write it over 1. So just like we did before, I'm going to rewrite this and factor so I can figure out what my LCD is. The x minus 2 goes into the denominator, plus 2 over 1 equals 8 over x squared minus 4 can be factored by the difference of two squares. That's x plus 2, x minus 2. Now my LCD has to contain, I start with my quantities first. It has to have an x minus 2. It has to have an x plus 2. The only other thing that you see is this denominator of 1. I don't need to worry about that because 1 times anything, it's not going to change the value. So I'm going to write my LCD as x minus 2 times x plus 2. X minus 2 times x plus 2. And x minus 2 times x plus 2. Alright, in my first fraction, I'm able to cancel the x minus 2. Basically what you have is x times x plus 2, so that's going to give us x squared plus 2x. In the second fraction, nothing's going to cancel, so you're multiplying the 2 times x minus 2x plus 2. X minus 2 times x plus 2, remember, was this x squared minus 4 factored. So I'm basically multiplying 2 times x squared minus 4, which is going to give us 2x squared minus 8. And then the second fraction, x minus 2 is going to cancel, x plus 2 is going to cancel. You're not multiplying this by anything. So equals 8. Now, once again, combining your terms and moving the 8 over, we're going to get 3x squared plus 2x minus 16 equals 0. I'm going to have to do my guess and check method. So I have 3x times x, because I know that's how I have to get to 3x squared. And then I think about my factors of 16. That's 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. The way that this is going to factor is going to be 3x plus 8 and x minus 2. This first one is going to give me a value of negative 8/3. And the second one is going to give me a value of positive 2. I will tell you that positive 2 does not work. Negative 8/3 is the only solution that we have. And the reason why is when I go back to check 2, when I plug this in, I am going to get 2 over 2 minus 2 plus 2 equals 8 over 2 squared minus 4. If you look at this denominator and this denominator, you are both going to get answers of 0 when you simplify. You are unable to divide by 0. That makes x equal to not work, and we only focus on negative 8/3.